That was Brittle Tits with Touch This Thing, parentheses, my pants hog. It was after 9 p.m., so please don't call KFAK to complain. Your kids should be in bed. It's mommy daddy music time. It's 9:32 p.m. You're listening to Fakahatchee Radio. I'm Horace Wexler.
The wind is very expensive.
Cocaine and a crack pipe in the car.
And I said, uh-oh, that doesn't sound good.
I don't talk about my ass.
Thank you for listening. Here are the headlines currently trending on the FakahatcheeGazette.com website. FakahatcheeGazette.com. News is a state of mind, and that state is of decay. Just a couple quick headlines before we dive into some of the news that we're covering. Cigarette sales plummet on new "Just Go Suck Some Wildfire Air Outside" campaign. Mike Bloomberg announces plan to spend $100 million on U.S. election in Florida, the terrible thing I'm expected to be fine with because it's, quote, for our guy. Country puts hands on knees and gasps for breath as they are no longer expected to keep up with the Kardashians. Reindeer herders discovered a fully frozen and intact cave bear. No word on whether there was a fully frozen and intact picnic basket nearby. But turning to our main stories from around the globe. Our main story tonight, Britain continues marching toward an exit from the European Union. For more on this, we have our newest reporter, Toast Anastasio, the station owner's 16-year-old niece.
Thanks, Horace. Okay, so, bring it in. Something's going on with Brexit. We don't know what it is, and frankly, we thought this was done a long time ago because Britain is so far away. But things seem to be continuing, and there's no end to those things in sight. And now there's some sort of I guess a bill that was passed or something, and there's a whole different prime president from the one this thing started with, which was an old lady who looked like she was once a mean bird, but then a witch got to her and said you're not a weird bird anymore, Teresa. Oh, sorry, I'm remembering now. It was a dude first, but he didn't look very British. He was no Justin Trudeau, Throb. He kind of looked like this guy that my dad knew. They would hang out in the garage sometime, and he sold mid-sized crossovers. And then one time I was outside while they were drinking beers, and the guy made a joke about fingering, and then my mom was no way is he coming around here anymore. So, to put this all into a prospectus, I guess Europe is bad now too and stuff, and illegal things are happening, but barely illegal, shoplifting some gum, nobody's gonna prosecute. It's just too much work. And also Ireland is there and hanging out, but North Ireland is really being a bitch because it still doesn't want to be part of Ireland. And now there's a whole border thing happening, when Kim pissed off Tehran, and then all the basketball players stopped sitting with us, and the UK seems to keep punching itself in the face and blaming it on Europe, which is totally a Kim thing to do, totally psycho, paste-eating weirdo psycho. Back to you, Horton.
Right. Tremendous work, Stephanie. Just, wow. That top-notch reporting. Tell your uncle what a good job I'm doing here when you see him next. Moving on to U.S. news. America. GM has revealed a new electric Hummer with a powerful new way of driving, Crab Mode. Crab Mode allows the new EV Hummer to be one of the first cars to move diagonally. Competitors have launched rival animal-themed modes on their cars and trucks. The Dodge Ram features a one-button push Husky mode, allowing you to daisy-chain the Ram together like sled dogs for heavier loads. And the Ford F-150 revealed its Shark mode, allowing you to fill the inside of your F-150 with old tires, license plates, and other sea trash. And wow, that's apparently all the news today. I've double-checked online, and there's no news there either. So enjoy the rest of your no news day, and enjoy knowing that things are going to be pretty similar to tomorrow, but safer and more relaxing. You'll also be happier for reasons that I don't fully understand, but scientists aren't going to investigate those reasons because they don't want to suddenly generate any sort of news. Nothing's happening at all, so feel free to just leave your computer. Heck, you probably don't even need your phone unless you're expecting a call. No news. Wow, that almost would be newsworthy in and of itself. Shit, This just in. Why no news? Who took it? Is it gone forever? Citizens confused, possibly terrified. Will news ever exist again? What about my news-fed anxieties? What will become of them? Screams local woman. More on the... Oh, sorry. I didn't realize this was double-sided. Hurricane Sally touched down in Alabama and Florida this past week, cutting a path across a swath of the U.S., bringing with it devastating winds, deadly storm surge, and forcing casual misogynists to update the references they use for their ex-wife. Hopefully everyone is staying safe out there. That's the U.S. news. Now let's drop in on Choochie Bunham with an eye on the planet, who's got an exciting interview with someone who's been looking down on you from above. And no, it's not a vengeful god. Thanks, Horace. I'm Choochie Bonham. When I took over Eye on the Planet from Rosemary Marjoram, after she went insane and stabbed a DuPont executive for downplaying the impact of recycling, I never thought that I would talk to someone who had seen the entirety of the Earth. Merely folks who had seen small pieces of it, like the rapidly melting glaciers, or the one chap who was very focused on how obese a python had gotten. So it's my terrific pleasure to share with you an interview with top-notch rocket man and real-life space ace, Major Reginald Lindo. Reggie, thanks so much for speaking to me today. What an honor it is to be speaking to a real-life astronaut.
Thanks for having me, Choochie. Typically, NASA doesn't let me talk to reporters. As they say, other astronauts are far better at it. And also more judicious with what they say than I am. So this is pretty exciting for me.
For me too. So you went to space and the moon.
I sure did. I believe it was 162 days on the ISS and 34 hours on the moon. Just to clarify for some of your listeners who may not be so familiar, ISS stands for International Space Station.
Right, that's a lot of time in space. I've heard when you spend some time up there, sometimes your viewpoint changes.
Yeah, I think one of the amazing things that happens when you're up there in the ISS, again, that's International Space Station, is that everything seems so grandiose, but also impossibly small. Like I would look down on the Earth and think, wow, just how many people are farting right this second. It's the kind of thing that changes you. All those butts making poots. Doesn't matter what color you are, we all make a stinky from time to time.
I suppose that's true. While sometimes we may feel very differently, ultimately, we're all the same. That's very insightful. What sort of hobbies does an astronaut have?
Well, I can't speak for the other astronauts, but my hobby is butts.
Butts? Is this American slang I'm not familiar with?
Nah, butts. Traditional butts, classic butts. Just all things butt related, really.
I'd love for you to expand on that.
I probably shouldn't, because it seems to make NASA pretty mad.
It's a bit odd, no? Maybe tough in space?
I don't think it's weird. We're called astronauts, so why wouldn't I be focused on people's butts? Military training? Please. We all have hobbies. My co-pilot, Corporal James Lee Weenus, he'd stare out the window and huff space glue out of a bag until he'd float around unconscious. And I would stare at any butts in my vicinity. And if there weren't any, I would make them up. You can't be working 24/7 in that kind of environment. So if I wasn't running experiments, it was butt time, and occasionally, I would f*** a pillow.
Right. Well, maybe let's talk about other astronauts you admire. Maybe people who came before you in the space program.
You know who has an absolutely outrageous butt was Major General Michael Collins. He was the one left in the lunar module, while Neil and Buzz they went off hoofing it on the moon. They didn't want to take him because he had that ass that wouldn't quit, and they just weren't sure at that point what the moon gravity was going to do to such a big fat ass. They hadn't done any experiments, you see, and so... Mission Control agreed. So I like, what's he gonna do with all that junk in the trunk on the moon? It's an absolute recipe for disaster. So they left him floating in his custom-built pilot seat in the module so they could protect those plump, juicy hams. Did you know, actually, NASA has a small museum on base down in Florida, and you can actually still see his big old biscuit prints in the seat cushion. It's pretty cool. Pretty awe-inspiring.
Is there anything you'd like people to know about space? Maybe something that doesn't get talked about much?
You know, I always see my companions get asked questions like these, and I'm really glad you asked this today, because there's something that they never mention and that doesn't get talked about, and that is just how absolutely horny the moon gets you. Like, it doesn't seem like much down here because it's tempered by the Earth's ozone, but then when you get up there, it's like, whoa, and you're like, I got a hump. And all of a sudden, the tip of your Gerald Ford, well, it's getting caught in a ridge of your spacesuit, and it's pinching, but it might be a good kind of hurt. Nobody can say at this point, so I am hoping to go back up for some more experiments before I make a determination.
Kids see you out there doing these amazing feats in space. There's no doubt more and more people will be traveling there in the future as space travel becomes more commonplace. What's something you think is important for future space travelers to know? Maybe an FYI or possibly a tip.
Oh, an astronaut tip. Sure, I got something. Let me just think. Oh, you know what? This is a top-notch tip for any astronaut. Don't come inside your suit, no matter how horny the moon makes you, because it just floats around in there inside the suit in the low or zero G's, and there is no separation between your body and your helmet, so it can get pretty dicey.
Reggie, thanks for speaking to me today.
Oh, darn. Is that it? I thought this was going to be an hour-long interview. Is there any chance you could give me a ride, Choochie?
Absolutely no. Back to you, Horace. Thanks, Choochie. Space is apparently a little different than I expected. I have a feeling some of those astronauts have really been sanitizing some of the details coming out of that gross space locker room floating around above our heads. All right, turning to local news.
When news breaks, we're there.
The Fakahatchee Sheriff's Department has not yet released the ID of the body found behind Baysbahn Mercantile. The coroner has also not released their report, citing irregularities they'd like to double-check before the press gets a hold of the report, specifically in regards to foreign substances found along with the body. During a press conference today, Sheriff Bud Nichols has said there are no current connections between this body and the recent discovery of the mayor, who was found dead inside the stomach of a killer whale with gunshot wounds.
I don't want to give a statement at this time, but these do seem very different to me. I mean, I'm no scientist, but one doesn't have anything to do with a shamu, for instance. I think about the only thing they do have in common is just a heinous loss of life. You have my assurances. If we determine that this is something that requires the pursuit of justice, we'll pursue it in the fastest way possible, like a Lamborghini of justice.
While many thought this was a metaphor at the time, since giving the press conference, a GoFundMe has been set up to buy the sheriff's department a, quote, sick-ass justice Lambo. It's unclear if the person behind the GoFundMe is directly connected to the office. Obviously, more on both of these stories as they develop. Friendly reminder, we're taking all of your calls and opinions on my show, Night Drive. Tonight, we're going wide open. We're talking about whatever or whoever's on your mind. You can send it out all over Florida via radio waves. All you got to do is give me a call tonight at 1 a.m. and don't touch that dial. You're not going to want to miss it. More music you love coming up in 120 seconds. For Fakahatchee Radio, I'm Horace Wexler.
Fakahatchee Radio. Still American for now.
I'm Puce Higgins, bon vivant, Met Gala fashion winner, and pecunia sexual. I love high opulence like sparkling crystal chandeliers and the rich flavors of fine wines. So I forced my two loves to breed, and now I'm proud to introduce to you my Crystal Key West Chardonnay. It sparkles like diamonds because of the real crystals in it. Get a taste of the Hollywood opulence, but brought to you in a way that only the Florida Keys can make it. Crystal Key West Chardonnay. Demand the wine that you can crunch. Visit us at keywestwines.net.